All right. Shalom, shalom. I'm your brother Pa Yao. And we want to go into some scriptures and some precepts, and speak about, what's happening, everything that's going on. And ultimately, Lord willing, how Ratazah, this will be edifying, exhorting, bring more insight. But before we get started, first and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father, to his only begotten Son, Yahweh,
Yeah.
Bahashem, Yahweh Shai,
Okay.
Bahashem, Baruch and double honors to all the elder apostles, to the bishops, the elders and men of great millstone, who rule well, who taught us the truth, peace, blessings, and salutation. And to the left, keep believing, keep the faith. For us people here forbear. We're going to start off with First Corinthians chapter 13, and I'm going to read verse 11. And we're just going to flow by the Spirit. 1 Corinthians 13:11, and it reads, "When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things." And yeah, man. Uh, at once upon a time, we were essentially young men. We were boys. We were children, cosplaying as men and doing a man's job because going out on the highways and byways, the hedges, you know, and teaching the word of the Lord, Yahweh, who is the true name of the Heavenly Father, who the world ignorantly calls God, Bashem Yahweh Shai, in the name of Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Teaching 100% truth. That's a man's job. You have to be spiritually discerned. You have to watch your steps and you have to constantly fear the Lord, above all else. And the fear of the Lord, it keepeth you away from, sinning and driveth away wrath for his presence, roughly paraphrasing. I know it's written. Now, if you guys have anything y'all want to say or precepts y'all want to bring out, go ahead.
Um, I just think it probably necessary to also add that we are not affiliated with Great Millstone, but we subscribe to the doctrine of Great Millstone. We are no shape or form affiliated with them, but everything that we understand, our wisdom and knowledge come from the elder apostles and the great men on down. And secondly, he's absolutely correct because as it's written, I think it's Galatians. I'll grab it real quick. Galatians 6:3. For if a man think himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. You know, every man got to prove his own works. And at that time, I can speak for myself first and foremost. It can feel like you're part of something because you're deceiving yourself versus how your actions and what you do in your work in your day-to-day life. You got to examine yourself daily to see whether or not you be of the faith. And when you don't examine yourself daily, you slip up. I remember one of the brothers I was talking to a while ago. He was like, when the Lord puts you through stuff, it allows you to see the chinks in your armor. And the more the Lord tests you and put you in the fire, the furnace of adversity, it's getting the impurities out. That way you can examine yourself and be like, all right, maybe I have a hard time being quiet when I need to listen more. Maybe I have a hard time praying. Maybe my health ain't good. And the same way you said earlier, a man puts himself under himself. A man watches over his flesh and his spirit. A man practices what he preaches. And a man also isn't selfish when it comes to doing what's right for your Yahweh first and foremost, and then for your brothers, you know. And it's
Okay.
hard to not pay attention to the small stuff. And that's where most people mess up. The book of Galatians chapter 6, verse 4. But let every man prove his own works. Then he will have rejoicing in himself and not in another. For every man shall bear his burden. We all got a burden to bear. We all got our own job that we have to focus on. We all a body. We all different organs and bones in the body of Yahweh Shai, in the body of Yahweh Shai. And if we ain't functioning right, if the pinky, which seems small, if it ain't balancing right, you can't walk. And for you to be a functioning pinky, you got to make sure you're good so that everybody can work together. Because if somebody not working to their fullest potential, or somebody half-assing it or bullshitting, Like honestly, I could probably say I was. Not even probably how I was. Half-assing and bullshitting, not putting your whole into it. Then when something happened, when everybody fall, it's your fault. Because you didn't prove your own works. You didn't carry your own burden. If anybody got a precept, you can say.
Uh, that's why we got one. I got one.
Nah, I got one for the next one you got.
All right, this is the book of Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, chapter 32. And I'm gonna start at verse 7. And it says, Speak, young man, if there be need of thee, and yet scarcely when thou art twice asked. Let thy speech be short, comprehending much in few words. Be as one that knoweth and yet holdeth his tongue. And we're young men in this thing. I've only been in the truth for going on 2 years. You know, the point is verse 9 where it says, "If thou be among great men, make not thyself equal with them. And when ancient men are in place, use not many words." And I can speak for myself personally. I didn't truly understand, um, how great it is to not only be a part of the ministry of, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, Lord Yahweh Shai among the brethren, but also, who I was among and how I was supposed to conduct myself. I was supposed to conduct myself, as a man, fearing the Most High and diligently thinking and caring about every action and step and measuring and weighing it according to the scriptures. But I wasn't doing that. And I was blinded in my own, essentially my own carelessness, which is a lack of, how should I say it? A lack of vigilance, you know. There's that precept roughly that speaks about but the devil goeth about as a roaring lion, seeking that who he may devour. Be ye sober minded.
Be your adversary, the devil, walkers about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour.
Con. And that sober, when you go into the word in the Greek, it goes into being, a whole or a healthy, sound mind. And how you get that sound mind is the scriptures. But um, you get easily confused when you just have the knowledge and the wisdom, but you don't have the understanding. You can't apply it. So, you have what you need to be sober minded, but as you walk and you don't apply it, then your actions aren't sober. And then you end up getting into situations and problems that you wouldn't have gotten into if you would just think about the Lord or if you would just measure it by the scriptures. And that's all I wanted to say on that.
Con. All right, I got a precept for it. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, chapter 20, verse 18, and I'm gonna read down to verse 20. To slip upon a pavement is better than to slip at the tongue, so the fall of the wicked shall come speedily. An unseasonable tale will always be in the mouth of the unwise. A wise sentence shall be rejected when it cometh out of a fool's mouth, for he will not speak it in due season. And I just
Mhm.
want to bring this out because at the end of the day, the things that have created this situation for us was purely us just talking too much, not listening enough, not paying enough attention, and not revering the men that we claim that we respect and the men that are appointed and ordained by the Lord to give this ministry, thinking we ourselves are above that and above the natural order. And in fact, can somebody get that precept about the order? But
Um,
but
uh,
just to
It's about let everything
reiterate,
be done decently and in order.
yeah, that one, God. To slip upon pavement is better than to slip with the tongue. It's literally saying it's better to fall down on your face than to just be caught out saying the wrong thing. And
mhm.
we got to self-reflect. It's us saying the wrong thing that has ended up with this situation in its entirety. And just to skip down to verse 20, of why a wise sentence shall be rejected when it cometh out of a fool's mouth. And to have disregarded the natural order, to have not consulted anybody of our decisions, to have acted of our own fruition without even seeking the counsel of the Lord was foolish. It was a foolish mistake made by what could easily be called children. Because, I mean, we're new to this. I've only been in this truth for going on maybe a year and 3 quarters. We might be eclipsing two, but we're just children and we didn't fall under order. And without falling under that order, we We made a slip of the tongue that caused us to fall on our faces anyway.
Try. You got
Yeah.
that preset on the side?
No, I
Okay.
ain't grabbing
Bring
it.
it out.
I got something else.
All right, well, come on, go ahead, bring that one.
You good? I just needed somebody to like say it because I didn't know it word for word.
Very done decently and in order. But this is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, verse 16. Be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself? And that's pretty much what happened. Being over righteous. And it's a good thing to have a zeal for the Lord, but as it's written, they have a zeal for the God, but not according to knowledge. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you can be overzealous for the Lord, and the knowledge and the wisdom comes from the scriptures. You should always fact check what you do before you do it. And prime examples of when the situation occurred, you didn't fact check. Because you fact check, you would have said, okay, all of this can be avoided because right here it says blatantly, don't do this, or all of this can be something that we don't even got to worry about because over here it says don't do this. But in being over righteous, you think in your heart that you know more than the Most High do. You know more than what the scriptures do. All the men that came before you, all the wisdom and understanding of those great men who spoke these words, who went through these things, even brothers that you see in the flesh to tell you like, yeah, man, I've been in this situation before. You think you know better than them.
God.
Be not righteous
Mm-hmm.
over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself? And you destroy yourself by being over wise and being over righteous. Be not much
Mm-hmm.
over wicked. I'm sorry. I thought somebody about to say something.
Oh no, I just got a precept. You can read. Go ahead.
All right. Be not over much wicked, neither be thou foolish. Why shouldest thou die before thy times? Yeah, and that's pretty self-explanatory. Because there's a way to seem right to a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. So, verse 18, it is good that thou shouldest take a hold of this. Yeah. Also from this withdraw not thine hand. For he that feareth God shall come forth of them all. And it won't enough fear. Because fear is the first step of being accepted to him. And that's something that you need to
Mm-hmm.
pray for too. Like James. If any man lack of anything, let him ask of God. And bro always used to say, you pray for more fear. Pray for more fear. Because fear is the first step of being accepted of the Lord. And that fear keeps you in check. That really helps you examine yourself. Because you gotta be like, damn, I messed up, or I could do better. I'm afraid that if I fail, I'm gonna get judged, or I'm gonna look bad to men that are counting on me, that's depending on me to take care of myself. That's
God.
depending
Mm-hmm.
on you. That like the same way I depend on y'all. If I got something going on, I want to call y'all and talk to y'all. But if y'all got stuff going on, you can't take care of yourself, and I can't take care of myself. What's the point? The blind leading the blind.
God. What's that precept about? Roughly paraphrasing this about the what is this? Something about being in somebody's eye, trying to get something out of somebody
Matthew,
else's eye, and
yeah,
it's
Matthew
looking for the
7.
doors.
Matthew
Matthew
7.
7. Oh, I
I
got
can
it.
grab it. You want it?
Yeah, kind the water.
I got a precept as well. I just want to bring out real quick. This second Peter, chapter 2, starting at verse 10, and it reads, "But chiefly them that walk after the flesh in the lust of uncleanness and despise government. Presumptuous are they, self-willed. They are not afraid to speak evil dignities, or speak evil of dignities." And I just want to apply it to the spirit of how easy it is when, wisdom isn't meeting you at every thought. Wisdom of Solomon 6 and 16. You could go about and you would end up being self-willed. It's written, a child left to himself will become willful, which basically means, you do whatever you want and what you think is right in your own eyes. And, Proverbs 3 speaks, be not wise in thy own eyes, fear the Lord and depart from evil. And the fear of the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahshai, is, that first step of departing from evil. I just want to say that real quick. It'll stop you from speaking evil, from doing evil, from thinking evil. Because it all starts with a thought. Something that you think is what's good, but because you didn't measure it to the pure righteous standard, the scriptures, you make an incorrect judgment, and now you're being judged and you're being condemned because whatever measure ye meet to others be measured unto you again. You know.
Mm,
But I just want to say that.
I got it.
Come on. I got a precept for you. This is to more so land back up what Nasak was talking about. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 30, and this is verse 1. He that loveth his
Mhm.
son causeth him oft to feel the rod, that he may have joy of him in the end. He that chastiseth his son shall have joy of him, and shall rejoice of him among his acquaintance. And then I want to skip down to verse 11. Give him no liberty in his youth, and wink not at his follies. Bow down his neck while he is young, and beat him on the sides while he is a child, lest he wax stubborn and be disobedient unto thee, and so bring sorrow to thine heart. Chastise thy son and hold him to labor, lest his lewd behavior be an offense to thee. And I brought that out to say, we just got to thank the Lord for punishing us this way, because, as it says, he that loveth his son off causeth him off to feel the rod. If the Lord didn't truly care about making us better men, we wouldn't have got any type of punishment. Nothing would have happened, and he would have just done away with us just like that. But rather than just discard us from the body, the Lord has decided to give us the rod and cause us to reflect, because he wants us to improve as men. He put us in the dirt and told us to go and get the basics, get our P's and Q's in order, get everything from the baseline up, because we built ourselves up with a flimsy foundation. And then a precept, the building out a house on a weak foundation.
yeah,
The house built on sand versus on the rock.
yes.
Kind
Mhm.
and we
Uh,
built up on a weak foundation. So once we got too high, it tipped over, and here we are. And so the Lord has given us the rod, told us don't build on a weak foundation again, and has given us a chance to start rebuilding that house.
mhm.
And
Somebody got Bashim Yashai.
Hey,
at the
I
water
got
y'all, don't y'all shy.
the audio share. I got a precept.
Kind.
Yeah.
First Timothy chapter 3, verse 5. For if a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of God? Not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride, fall into the condemnation of the devil. You can speak on it you want to.
Oh, not sure you want to speak on it, or I can speak on it.
Nah, I'm looking for a precept. I
All
got
right, kind of. Well, yeah, man. You know not how to rule your own house, which you mean your house starts with yourself. Our body, is the temple. The spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. We're our own house, we're the beginning of that. If we can't get ourselves in order, if we can't, keep our bodies under subjection and rule over our spirit, scripture speaks about a man that can't rule his spirit is like a city without walls, roughly paraphrasing. You can easily be, attacked and overthrown, by spirits, by trials, tribulation, so on and so forth. You can very easily be overthrown and overtaken. You get what I'm saying? And how are we supposed to go out and what I'm saying? Matter of fact, let me bring up this precept real quick. It's gonna tie right in. It's the spirit. This is for Corinthians 9 and 27, and it reads, "But I keep my body and bring it into subjection, lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway." So it's an important thing to pretty much have self-control and discipline over yourselves. And we didn't have that, doing what we did. We didn't have that. We didn't have the discipline and the correct instruction in our hearts constantly with us to know what to do, and what not to do. You get what I'm saying? And to a degree, we got casted away in a sense of, being put aside. You get what I'm saying? But the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, had mercy on us and kept us up until this point for us to start over, to try again, to actually go about it the right way. So to think of him constantly for wisdom to meet us in every thought, because we've preached to others, whether it's lessons, going on the highways and the byways, whether just giving someone a word, what I'm saying, Lord puts it on our spirit, you know. If you yourself aren't doing what you're preaching, you're a hypocrite. And that's one of the things that the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai hates. You get what I'm saying? So you yourself starts with you. The righteous way and path, it starts with you before you can start taking care of, other people, before you can start teaching other people. And that was one thing that, I can speak for myself for sure. I was falling short at and was doing. And when we got put in the dirt and we got set aside, and specifically is told like, y'all need to start over, go back from the basis and work your way up again. Y'all are still babies, you couldn't handle the meat. You have to go back to the sincere milk, that you may grow thereby. You get what I'm saying? We have to go back to the milk so that we may grow and then try again and, to show ourselves that we're profitable servants to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, and we're not, out of towns or anything like that. Go ahead, bring out precept, Dashalat.
This is, I promise, this is the last one out of this book. This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 17, verse 21. But the Lord, being gracious and knowing his workmanship, neither left nor forsook them, but spared them. And that's the exact
Mm,
situation we're in right now. The Lord has set us aside and tried to feed us the milk before we could eat the meat, so to speak, in terms of we weren't ready because we were not taking care of ourselves as men. And how can we try to garner the flock and bring in the sheep if we ourselves are just babes who can't even understand what we're saying out loud to others? What's that saying in the world? Practice what you preach.
Mm-hmm.
right.
And the Lord put us in a position to show that we truly can practice what we preach. And again, the water Lord for deciding that instead of just casting us away entirely, he was going to put us in the dirt and give us a chance to learn and benefit from our own mistakes.
hmm
But
Um, there, it reminds me of that time, through the spirit, you can kind of apply it to when David set forth like his ambassadors to one of the heathen kings, I believe. And either one of the heathen kings or other like a Jake king, and they shaved his beard. They shaved their beards like halfway, and then they split their garments, and you could see their buttocks and whatnot. And they were ashamed. And King David told them, pretty much tarry until your beards are grown, because a beard is pretty much part of what makes you a man. It's your manlyhood. It's your manhood. You get what I'm saying? So basically, we got sent away to tarry. You get what I'm saying? Because what we did, we embarrassed ourselves. We brought shame to the ministry. We got the ministry blame with what we did. And we brought shame to our brethren, the men that that we claim that we love, that taught us, that took care of us, that showed us much charity, and love, and and our brother, that cared for us, you know. And but all that being said, like the brother said, going into the milk is Hebrews chapter 5. I'll read verse 12, and it says, for the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of the Most High Yahweh, and are become such as have need of milk and not strong meat. We have to be taught again. We have to be told, like we said, to start over, start from the bottom and learn all over again. Go over the things that you thought you had understood because you didn't clearly, the things that you may have overlooked. And there is plenty of things that we overlook, you know. And I'm gonna just jump down to verse 14 and end with that. But strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. Exercise, exercise also goes with experience. I forgot the Latin or the Italian word for it, but to experience literally means to try out, and exercise is quite literally the activity of trying. You get what I'm saying? Of getting tried. And it says to discern both good and evil, to be able to distinguish between something that's good and profitable or something that's evil and unprofitable that you shouldn't do. And with the situation that happened concerning our brother, we had that was our chance to exercise and we failed. But us getting put in the dirt and pretty much going back to the drawing board, now we've been given an opportunity to exercise more again. And Lord willing, we never fail in that way again. If the Wadi Habashim Yashah for the mercy to give us, the chance again to discern both good and evil, you know. And you brothers got anything I want to say? Precept?
Yeah, I
Mm,
got, I got a
fire.
first. This book of
Mm-hmm.
Proverbs, chapter 4, and I started 1. Hear ye children, the instruction of a father, and attend to no understanding. For I give you good doctrine. For ye forsake ye not my law. For I was my father's son, tender, and only beloved in the sight of my mother. He taught me also and said unto me, let thy heart retain my words, keep my commandments and live. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And I say all the time, understanding is the application of knowledge, of wisdom. So you can have all these scriptures in your head. You can have all the doctrines. You can have all the breakdowns. You can have everything. But if you're not applying what you learn to your everyday walk in life, you're not really doing it. You're not really being a servant. You're not being diligent in your search. Diligent in your search meaning you care enough to be particular about every small thing you do. You make sure that every thought is met with wisdom. She meted him with every thought,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Solomon 6 and 16.
Yeah,
Yeah, for she
she
goeth about. No, you
speaking
got it. No, it's like, yeah.
more worthy of her. But
Mm-hmm.
even with that, wisdom didn't meet us at every thought. You can have all the scriptures, all the breakdowns, but when shit get hot and you don't depend on the knowledge and the commandments and the scriptures, then it's pointless. That's the whole point of getting put in the fire, going through trials, the Lord doing stuff to you. So he gonna see, all right, are you gonna call on me? Are you gonna pray to me? Are you gonna go read about other similar situations and what to do in them? Are you gonna lean on your own understanding and do it seem good in your own eyes? Or are you gonna take heed and pay attention to what I've said aforetime? Whatsoever written aforetime is when for our learning that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. That gives us patience and comfort when we read the scriptures, when we read the commandments, when we get the wisdom and understanding of all the men in ancient days. We we see and understand, all right, this is how I avoid punishment, on what they should do to live
Mm-hmm.
and to avoid punishment.
Was that second Ezra 7? I could be wrong.
If
But
you can find
yeah.
it, me gave us clear commandments, clear doctrines. That the knowledge of the commandments of the Lord is the doctrine of life, and those who do the things that please him shall eat of the fruit of the tree of immortality. But even before you get to that tree of immortality, you got to do the things that please him. And doing the things that please him is keeping his words, acting them out. Even when it comes to brotherly love, I can do a lot better at brotherly love. I can do a lot better at studying more, being more fervent in business, fervent in business
Mm-hmm.
that the Lord looks at and rewards. As he said, I love those that love me, and they that seek me early shall find me. Doing something early, B time shows diligence because you're not tarrying, you're not bullshitting. And I'll be honest, I was tarrying, I was bullshitting, I wasn't 100%. And this is the result of not being 100%. Somewhat lukewarm, if you would say, because if you ain't hot or cold, you in the middle, you lukewarm. The Lord gonna spit you out. And that's something that I don't want, and I'm pretty sure nobody else wants it. If you're really diligent and you really care, you can grab that real quick if you got it.
I got it. This is second Ezra chapter 7, verse 21, and it reads, I'll start at 20. For there be many that perish in this life because they despise the law of the Most High Yahweh that is set before them. For Yahweh hath given straight commandment to such as came, what they should do to live, even as they came, and what they should observe to avoid punishment. Nevertheless, they were not
Yeah.
obedient unto him, but spake against him and imagined vain things. You got something you want
Go
to speak? You want to speak on
can you go
that?
yeah.
Go
Can you
with
also grab I think 2 and 1 through 5? My son
what
that come to
15?
serve.
Oh,
Yeah,
con.
that come to
Uh,
serve the Lord prepare our station. But right now,
I got
it's
it.
clear instruction on what to do to live and what to do to die to avoid punishment. And we know, Dashalat, you went through it earlier. The father gonna beat the son on the sides. So we know that we got to go through these trials and tribulations. Too much tribulation shall we enter into the kingdom of heaven. So we know
Mm-hmm.
that these things got to come, but at the same time, knowing that we're going to get tested and judged, we should always strive for the masteries, as is written. Strive for the masteries. Strive to do your best at everything you do. Whatever you put thy hand to, do it all might. You know.
Con. And
Mm-hmm.
just to go off of what you're saying, but right before brother brings out that precept, this is the book of Proverbs, chapter 29, verse 1, and it reads, "He that being often reproved harden his neck, and
Mm-hmm.
shall suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy." And rather than hardening our necks when we were reproved, we took those words in earnest, and we actually tried to learn from it and do what we were commanded. We went back, we rebuilt our foundation, and we tried to be better men, because to serve this ministry, you got to be a man. And we weren't moving as men. And I want to skip over to Proverbs chapter 29, verse 11, and it reads, "A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in until till afterwards." If we would have been wise men, we would have went to the chain of command. We would have went to the order. We would have told them what we were feeling. We would have told them what we were thinking, and we would have kept it inside before we brought the issue to the public, to the world. Before we brought it out loud, we would have kept that inwards. And once we got, what's the word I'm looking for? Once we got guidance and judgment from the older brothers, from the order, from the Lord, once we got that judgment, once we got that guidance, we would have realized, okay, maybe we shouldn't do what we're doing. But rather than doing something intelligent, or what's the word I'm looking for? Wise. Instead of being wise, we were as fools, and we uttered everything in our minds. We didn't seek guidance. We didn't seek any type of assistance or none of that. And that's how we end up where we are. And I
Yeah.
had another one. If I think I had it bookmarked.
No, I ain't cutting you off, but adding to that,
No,
it's
you
a
good.
scripture trying to go find it. Even when the Lord tempt you, well, not even tempt you, but like He give you a way to escape, and
Right.
verily, it gave him two
Con.
ways to escape. But the Lord speaketh once, man perceive not. He speaketh again, man perceive not.
Con, I found that precept I was looking for. It was earlier in the book. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 6. "A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth for strokes. A fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul." And as I read earlier in what book was it? Ecclesiasticus, it says, "Spare not your son, or spare not your son the rod, or causeth him to often feel the rod." And it says, "A fool's mouth called for strokes." We as fools were the children of the Lord, and He gave us strokes. He gave us the rod, and He caused us to be broken down. I keep harping on it. We were broken down to be rebuilt. We had a weak foundation, so the Lord really instilled it into us that we needed to be broken down. Because if we weren't broken down and we kept climbing higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, then the flimsy foundation would give out and the building falls down and it's way worse. It's like it's like a, what you call it? It's like a skyscraper. If the skyscraper foundation isn't right, that's 100 floors coming crashing down. That's a big problem. But if you build in some Lego blocks and a couple blocks fall over because you got a bad foundation, it fell over, but it's easier to rebuild better because you know what you
Yeah,
did wrong sooner. And the sooner you find out what you're doing wrong, the sooner you can rebuild properly. And
yeah,
just to harp back on, "A fool's mouth is his destruction." That I don't even think I got to explain it, man. That's literally what happened. Our mouths were our destruction, and our lips were the snares of our soul. We put ourselves in this situation by talking too much, by doing too much, by saying too much wrong, by not talking enough to the right people, everything. And it's not just saying too much, it's also saying too little. It depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to the right person, not saying enough, that can be just as bad as talking to the wrong person and saying too much.
right.
Right.
But
Um,
That's all I
pride
got.
goes
you got another one?
here before a fall, as you were saying
Con,
about the house built up, because that pride gonna keep rattling it up, and that and then destruction for a haughty fall. Same thing.
I got that one right here. Book of Proverbs,
Yeah,
chapter
I got.
18, verse 12.
You can grab
Go ahead, you
that.
can read it. Now you can read it. You read it.
All right, you got some, y'all.
No, I was gonna say that parable of the man that started building a tower or a house, but didn't have enough money to build it
Oh,
to finish building it, and he would get laughed at. But going into what you brothers were saying or Dashala was saying about the foundation. That you could keep building on that house with a bad foundation purely out of pride. Just be like, I got enough money, end up being broke, bankrupt, or any type of storm that comes, your house tumbles, and then it's a real shit show. Just for lack of a better word, you get what I'm saying. But to get reproved, to get rebuked, the scriptures speak about how a wise man, rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee, roughly
mm-hmm.
paraphrasing. So, for you to get rebuked, to examine yourself and take those words into consideration and genuinely apply those things, and to be mad enough to admit that, you were wrong. You shouldn't have done what you did, that you weren't moving in the correct spirit, for you to actually, hear that voice from behind you that tells you, this is the way, walk ye in it, whether you turn from the left or the right, and to continue to follow it, even though when you rebuke a scorner or a scoffer, they hate you, but if anything, all it did was increase our love and our joy in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and in our brethren, because they loved us enough to call us out. If they don't love you, they wouldn't have called you out. If the Lord ain't love you, he wouldn't chasten you. He would treat you as a bastard and not as sons. And we are not bastards. Yahweh Ratazah, as it is written. You know, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, to add on with the scripture, well, not scripture, but the part you was quoting, they was laughed and looked at him and said, "What manner of this? The man had built the house without counting the cost, and he wasn't able to finish it." And that's the whole point of being diligent. Because if you was diligent enough, you would have counted the cost. You would have made sure you had enough supplies and wood. You would have picked the time to build it in the summer because you know the winter was coming, and when nobody want to work in the winter, you would have hired people. But instead, like you just said, your pride, you probably think you could do it all on your own, or just do it as you go by. And honestly, that's what I was doing, just doing it as I went by, instead of preparing for for the times to come. Because we can easily quote, "My son, that thou come, sir, Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation, set thy heart aright, constantly endure, so forth and so forth. Be patient when thou is changed to a lower state." There's one thing to read those things and to actually go through them and still keep the faith. Because the most thing that we really got out of this is more faith and more fear and more patience and temperance in everything you do, and more mercy and grace. Because now you understand it better. Didn't really
Hmm.
understand mercy and grace until your ass got in that hot seat and realized how much you need it, how much we all depend on the grace and the mercy of Yahweh Shem Shah.
All right.
This
I
is
got a
first,
preset from that. Oh, you about to read one?
yeah.
I got.
This
Okay, Con, go ahead.
this is First Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. There have no temptation taken you, but such is common to man. But the Most High is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will, with the temptation, also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. And really speak for itself. And even in our
Hmm.
case, where we didn't choose the paths to escape, verily it was still the will of the Lord. From the dream to the coming to pass to even understanding the meaning of why the Lord wanted it to be this way and why He made it happen, and the result of what to do after it come to pass and after it happened. What type of man was you before this happened? What type of man are you going to be after this happened? Are
Right.
you still going to ease by, just cruise through the end, or are you going to be fervent in business? You're going to put your heart to it. You're going to be deadly serious about serving the Lord. And it's at the
Hmm.
point now where, man, it's been about what, 8 months going on 9,
Hmm.
Con.
and Tawadi Halbashin Hawashah for allowing us to retain the spirit and to retain the Rakat Kodash. so that we
Con,
can see how much we grown, you know, how much the Lord willing we will continue to grow and abound.
con. I got another precept. This is the book of Timothy, or First Timothy, chapter 3, verse what, 5, or no, verse 6. And the name of the, what is it? The header of this chapter is qualifications for bishops. And it says, not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride, he fall into condemnation of the devil.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what happened. We came in to be bishops of the Lord, to be teachers of the Lord as novices. And we were lifted up with pride and we fell into a snare, so to speak. We allowed things to happen that wouldn't have happened if we simply would have walked with the wisdom of the Lord, if we would have consulted the men of the Lord, if we would have looked through the words of the Lord. But rather than do any of that, we relied on what we thought we already knew. And
Mhm.
that is a novice mistake. Well, that's all I got to say on that. That's
Okay.
really self-explanatory.
Hey,
Mhm.
you ain't got no more precepts. Probably start wrap it up.
Yeah, I was just
I
that's
like got
spirit. I was just about to say that. We start wrapping up. This is the last one I'm gonna bring out. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 2, verse 11, and it reads, "For the Lord Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, is full of compassion and mercy,
mm-hmm.
long suffering and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins, and saveth in time of affliction." You know, and I don't want to speak too much on it, but Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai verily has shown us compassion and mercy, and he's forgiven us concerning these things, and we pray that we can just continue on and to be profitable and to do good so that furthermore we can please the Lord. Happy are we, O Israel, for the things that are pleasing to the Lord are made known to us, roughly paraphrasing. So I just want to, that's just it. The Lord saved us in times of affliction, numerous times, times of adversity, you know and for us to come out and for us to still be able to look forward and what I'm saying, have the right spirit on us and mindset on us, into fear in the Lord first and foremost, and then letting brotherly love continue. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a beautiful thing, and the Wadi Habashim Yashai once again for allowing us to do so. But
Right. Oh, sure.
so y'all got anything else y'all want to say?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Khan. Well, we'll have to tune in. Akim Wakwa. In closing, before we close out, we want to give all praises and honor and glory to Heavenly Father, to His only begotten Son, Yahweh,
Yeah.
Yahweh,
Hashem, Yahweh
Hashem,
Shai,
Shai,
Hashem,
Hashem,
Chakdash,
Hakadosh.
double honors to the apostles and bishops and men of great millstone that rule well, who taught us the truth, that rule well. Peace, blessings, salutations to the elect, and shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.